Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today on maximizing ROI with low-code app development platforms. Just as a quick introduction for everybody on the call, my name is JJ McGuigan. I'm the Product Marketing Manager of App Builder here at Infragistics, and I'm going to be kicking off today's webinar. We'll go over a few slides that are going to discuss some key insights that are shaping the way organizations are now approaching their app development, and then after that, I'll pass it off to Jason for a quick demo, and then we'll hang around at the end to answer any questions that you guys do have. So as I'm sure most people on the call are already aware of, low-code app development is a very hot topic right now, and many companies are beginning to adopt these tools to replace their traditional coding methods. It's even estimated that by 2025, 70% of new apps are going to be built using low-code application tools. So for today's webinar, we're going to discuss some effective strategies for implementing these tools, and then how tools like App Builder can actually help you achieve your company objectives even faster. So for the agenda, we're going to kick it off by talking about how to measure your ROI, and then from there, how can App Builder actually speed your time to market, increase developer productivity, and future-proof your tech investments. So just getting into it here, how do you actually measure ROI? So when it comes to maximizing it, the first thing is to understand how do I calculate it and which factors actually impact this. The first thing we'd want to consider is how fast is your time to market. The quickest way to achieve a faster ROI is being the first to market. So whether it's shipping that new feature, that new product, it's to give you that significant advantage over the competition, and then in turn, you'll be able to generate revenue faster on your end. So the first thing we need to understand is your team still capable of building their minimal viable product with the features they need by using just a low-code platform? And if so, are they achieving the same results? So once we understand that, the next step is going to be, now that I'm using a low-code platform, is it easier and is it faster for me to develop and deploy a finished application? Are you shortening your project timelines? Are there fewer errors and iterations that you have to make along the way? So when it comes to App Builder, we always say we want to get you down from months to build apps, get you down to weeks, days, or even hours to really simplify that process for you. But how do you actually achieve the faster time to market is always the question. And what I would say the easiest way to ensure this is to equip your team with the tools they need to maximize their productivity. So this is for everybody on the team. We want to even consider the citizen developer here as well. And can they help clear your team's backlogs and handle repetitive tasks easily without the help of an experienced developer? How much time are we actually minimizing on the critical tasks that are very manual, that you prefer to be automated? Setting up a project environment, writing boilerplate code, UI design and layout. We actually did a survey earlier this year, and we asked developers, what's the number one thing that slows you down in your process? And 85% of the respondents told us that it's a UI screen layout or working with HTML and CSS. These are their biggest challenges. These are their biggest time wasters. So this means that a lot of development time right now is being spent on tasks that developers either don't have the skill set for, or they don't enjoy doing it, and that will in turn hinder the productivity of your entire team. And then finally, are you reducing the amount of errors and iterations in your process? So that's one of the big things about low-code tools, is that you're getting feedback early. All the stakeholders are able to work in one area and really reduce, having to work backwards and make changes when it's too late. So the big question, of course, though, is how will this also provide cost savings? So to get an idea of how you want to quantify your ROI after implementing a low-code tool is, how much is your business actually spending? So some factors you may want to consider are, what are your actual cost savings achieved through a reduced development time? We're decreasing your dev hours, reducing technical debt. Is there less of a dependency on highly skilled developers? Decreasing your maintenance costs compared to a traditional app development method. When we reduce the amount of custom code, it's now easier to manage and maintain in the long run. So now that you have an idea of how much you're actually spending, you want to calculate, what is the output from my team? Are we able to maintain that same level of quality even though we're reducing costs? So yes, we're cutting back on costs, but we also don't want to sacrifice on performance. So what can we take a look at? Are we decreasing our turnaround time for completed apps? How much quicker are the review cycles? Like I said, we're having stakeholders involved earlier in the process, so that we don't have to work back and make changes later. Where's the impact on the quality after implementing these low-code strategies? Are your teams still delivering these large-scale, enterprise-level applications that your customers are now expecting? So now that we can measure team productivity, time to market, business costs, and the quality of work, to bring it all together, you're going to need to track your entire digital transformation. So the easiest way to do this would be through benchmarks or KPIs that you can use to assess and measure the progress or success of your digital transformation. So some things to consider here. Are you able to expand your current roadmap and add on to it, where instead of things that are usually going to take 6 months to accomplish, now maybe they only take 3 months to accomplish? Are your teams working more efficiently, meeting their deadlines, staying on budget, delivering projects early? In order to track this, you want to look at metrics such as, customer satisfaction, customer retention, or more people coming back to use your finished applications. And then finally, it's about assessing your conversion rates. How many people are now going from a trial to a converted customer? Assessing your sales growth. What is the average transactional value that you're able to achieve before implementation and then afterwards? So once you have a full understanding on the impact of these factors, you can successfully determine your ROI of implementing low-code app development tools at your company. So now what I want to go into here is how can App Builder actually help us achieve, the goals that we just outlined above. So we know how to calculate our ROI, but how can we actually accelerate your time to market and help you realize profits quicker? So these are a few of the big items here. Number one, eliminating hand coding. It's very repetitive. It's error prone. With low code, you move away from this concept of you going from prototype to production much faster. You're using a drag and drop interface, pre-built components to help you quickly build and deploy these apps. And then in turn, that's going to reduce your errors and iterations. Hand coding could be very error prone. So with this old drag and drop, much easier, simplifying the process. We're optimizing your team resources, so strategically allocating developer skill sets for the maximum efficiency to meet your project goals. So developers of any skill set can now effectively contribute to your team's success. And then the last one here, and this is really the big one, this is our differentiator with App Builder, is anything you build, you're generating production-ready code instantly. And this is for any modern framework, Angular, Blazor, web components. We just added React last week, and that's really where the key differentiator for App Builder comes into play. We're also looking to increase your developer productivity. So low-code platforms are, at its core, they're designed to make developer lives easier and more productive, minimizing the time spent on the repetitive, mundane task and making it much more automated. So we're freeing up developer time to focus more on strategic and complex projects. And this will in turn not only boost your productivity, but enhance the job satisfaction level of your development team as well. In order to do this, we're utilizing pre-built templates and reusable components. So low-code platforms like App Builder, they come with a variety of pre-built templates and reusable components. Not only these templates, we also have sample applications to help kickstart your development. You can import your Figma files, your sketch files, all of this to really just get your process started quicker and eventually, in the end, reach your end goal faster as well. And then finally, let's discuss how low-code platforms are going to help future-proof in your tech investments as well. So as you guys on the call know, technology, it's ever evolving. It's essential to stay ahead of the curve. And App Builder, it's going to help you do that and provide you several key advantages. So keeping pace with those latest innovations. So, low-code platforms like App Builder are constantly updated with the latest technologies and innovations so that all your apps, they're remaining cutting edge. So, for instance, adding React in, we're able to easily add that to our platform a few weeks ago and give you that capability. Recently, the team just deployed a few AI capabilities in App Builder, and in a few weeks, we'll have that fully ready to go. But it's just about when something in the market comes up, we're able to easily implement that in the App Builder, and you guys could take advantage of it right away. And then, in essence, that's going to help you stay prepared, meet your organization's goals, so you could quickly develop and deploy apps that align with your organization's goals right now, as well as their future plans. So overall, by leveraging a tool like App Builder, you're ensuring that your tech investments are both scalable, adaptable, and your teams are remaining agile so that you're well equipped and well prepared for any future goals that your teams have. So that's really how app builders can help your teams, go from design to development to deployment much faster, and really get a better look at that. I'm going to pass it off to Jason now. He's going to give us a quick demo and showcase, everything you can do inside App Builder and a few of our new features. So Jason, if you want to go ahead, I'll pass it over to you now.
Great. Thank you, JJ, for that intro. So let's go through a quick demo of App Builder to kind of highlight some of the features that really drive the types of results that JJ talked about in his intro. So first off, I'm over at the appbuilder.dev website. You can learn more about the product here. There's all kinds of great customer stories, resources, etc. But what I want to do is just click the sign in button so I can jump right over to App Builder. I've already logged in, so I end up here at my entry point for App Builder. App Builder ships with a bunch of preset, sort of pre-made, rich sample applications that are not only good starters, but they help you to learn the product. Also, if I click the new application button, I'm presented with some different preset templates that I can start with. We looked at a bunch of different types of UIs that are most common for the web, and this is what we came up with, so it gives you a way to really get going quickly. Also, you can simply import your designs from Figma or Sketch or use our plugins for both of those products. But let's go ahead and use one of the starter apps. You can pick any one of these. I like to usually start with the team collaboration sample because it highlights some nice features of the product and is also very visually impressive. So first off, I've opened up this sample application. I'm presented with App Builder. This is a SaaS-based product, as we talked about in the intro, and it really does give you this WYSIWYG to deliver a full experience from design to code for application developers. I have some options here for quick tips, videos, docs, etc. But let's just go through what the layout is here for App Builder so you can get started. The first thing you'll see on the left are all of my screens. So as I select these guys, you can see on the right-hand side, the canvas changes to show what's available to me. So you'll see here I have a bunch of preset screens that are already made up. When I select one of the components on a screen, you'll notice that the right-hand side changes based on the type of component I'm selecting. And also on the left, you'll see that the object model, or the DOM, the document object model for this layout, is displayed. This gives you a easy way to maybe rearrange objects, rename, hide, show, etc. if you want to work within that document object or document outline, or you just work directly with components as you select them, and you can change properties on the right. Properties range from how things are sized, spaced, what the layout is. If you're doing data binding, then configuration per component. So for example, on a calendar, you might have configurations like what are we binding data to, what's the start date, how many months, etc. So there's obviously each component has different ways of being set up. What are those components? If I click on the Components tab on the left menu, you can see all of the components that are available to you. Again, these are backed by Ignite UI, our enterprise-grade UI controls and components that really drive all kinds of applications in the market today. The nice thing is all of these components are battle-tested, designed and implemented for real-time data-intensive application. So whatever you decide you're going to design or build inside of App Builder, our components can really back up whatever performance needs that you have. If I click on the Data tab, you'll see that I have a bunch of data sources. Here I have some already added for things that I've already sort of experimented with in App Builder. I'm going to go ahead and use one of these in a little bit. We're going to use our Northwind Cloud data source and do some data binding in a minute. Then we have variables. So variables come into play on a page or a global level or through routed parameters. Let's say, for example, you have a card view of invoices and you want to click on an invoice, navigate to another page, but bring the context of that data item with you so you can hydrate components on the receiving page. That's where routed parameters come in. And then within a page, you can do variables. And then, of course, just global variables that might be available to you across every single page. So this is a centralized place to manage those variables. Theming, App Builder has a real strong theming story. So you'll see here, as I simply select a new theme, the entire application changes. I don't have to worry about knowing CSS or colors or anything. I don't really even need a designer to make all of this look good together. And let's say, for example, I like a theme, but I want to modify it ever so slightly. You can duplicate existing themes, which I've done already for some custom themes. So here you can see I've got some different looking themes with different fonts, different elevations, different colors, etc. It looks really, really beautiful. And the great thing is, from your perspective, you don't have to write any code to do this. Everything here is done through a simple WYSIWYG. You're pointing, clicking, selecting, and you're updating that theme. So you can brand your experiences that you build with App Builder with no knowledge of CSS, with no special knowledge of what colors go together. You will be guided by the tooling in App Builder, which will give you those complementary colors. And at the end of the day, you can really build out something that looks pretty beautiful and pretty stunning. So maybe we'll just leave it at this headings theme with Lato. It's a nice blue experience. And if we go back and select a couple other screens, you can see that they all look pretty good with this new theme. Everything flowed through very nicely. And then finally, the last item is your assets. You can upload images, icons, etc., and use those throughout the application. So this is just a centralized place for you to manage those assets. So I have my application here. What can I do with it? Well, of course, I can go and modify things, WYSIWYG, drag and drop, add more stuff. But let's go ahead and hit the Run button in the upper right-hand side. So now I'm actually running this application. This is the live application as it's built, running just like you would expect. As I click the menu items of this app on the left-hand side, I'm navigating from page to page. All of the interactions are there. So we're actually letting you design and build this app and then run it right within App Builder. But the real beauty is if I switch on the code view. So here you can see the code in your language of choice that is generated based on what your design is. So in this case, I'm looking at my home screen, and this is the code that makes up my home screen. If I want to look at the CSS, this is all the CSS. Maybe I'm not doing React. Maybe I'm doing something like Blazor WebAssembly. So I can just select Blazor WebAssembly, and this is the code that is generated for this screen and that target language. The nice thing is you don't have to determine what your code target is prior to doing your design. You can go and design this entire application and then say, hey, I'm going to now generate this code in Angular, React, Blazor WebAssembly, or even web components. The choice is yours on what the target framework is. This makes it really great for you to not focus on the technology, but focus on the user experience. If I want to navigate, I can still do the same navigation, and you'll see here that the code is changing based on what I'm looking at. So let's go back to edit mode, and let's just look at what this experience is like, for example, to add a new page to our master view. So here we have some different menu items. When I select these menu items, navigation is happening using the just simple point and click. So I say navigate to, where do I want to navigate to? Dashboards off of the master view, which was this page. Well, let's add a new page. Let's add a child view. And we're going to call this customer orders. And what I want to do is create a screen that has my customers on the left and their orders on the right. So the first thing I'm going to do is pick a layout. App Builder gives you a nice way to pick preset layouts. These are very common patterns that you probably use in all of your apps. Let's do an easy side-by-side layout. And this guy, I don't need to be 50% width of the page, so I'm just going to set this to be 20%. And here, I'm going to do a Control-E, and what that does is it gives me a shortcut to all of the components that are in the toolbox. Just as easily, I could have went to my toolbox, searched for a component that I want to use. In this case, we can say, let's try a list component, and then I would just drag and drop right here onto the screen. So I want to do a list component here. And over here, why don't we add a grid component? So let's look for a grid. I'll select grid, and here I have my grid set up. What is this doing right now? Well, it's not doing anything, but it's bound to some fake data, the defaults that we have inside of the product. So let's go ahead and customize this a little bit with some data that I've already added. You'll remember here we had our Northwind Cloud data set. So in this case, I already have some APIs that are connected to App Builder from my web API. This is up in the cloud running in Azure. You'll see I have my customers list, and then I have my orders list, and the orders list is expecting a customer ID as a parameter. So what are we going to do here? Let's first off select our list item, and we're going to change it to be a data-bound component. So immediately you can see that we have some grayed out list items here. What do I want to bind to? I'm going to go and select that Northwind Cloud database, and I'm going to say use the customers list. So now I have available to me the customers that are in this data source. So what do I want to show? Let's bind to this data set, and let's do the company name. And then for the subtitle, let's go back to the customers. Why don't we grab the contact name? So you can see that this data now is being bound to each one of these items. The image here, I don't really have an image of my customers in my database, so I can select this, and you can see I try to delete it. It says, hey, you can't delete this, but you can turn it off in the parent. So again, if I go back to my list component, I have options here on what I can turn on and what I can turn off. So let's turn off the avatar, and let's turn off the actions, and I just want to list out my customers. And now when I run this, what we'll see on the left-hand side is the list of all of my customers. Now, this is not very user-friendly. The list makes my page go on forever. So let's go back to edit mode, and what I want to do is on this container, I want to tell it to automatically show the scroll bar. So I'm going to set the overflow to auto. So now when I run this, and we scroll, you can see that I don't have a page that goes on forever. I just have a nice list of customers. What's the next thing that we want to do? You guessed it. I want to load this side with the orders for this customer. Let's go and select our grid. And what we want to do is change its data source back to our Northwind Cloud data source. I'm going to select customer orders. I don't have a customer selected. But you'll notice that I have a little red dot here with a button that's saying, hey, what do you actually want to load in this customer orders? It's expecting a parameter. So it wants a customer ID parameter. So if I test this out and I say Elfke, which I know is the Alfred Futterski customer ID, I can send that. It says, hey, you actually did get some data back. Here are the Elfke orders. Hey, that's great. Let's click done, and you can see that the orders show up. But I want to do that for every click that I make on this list component. So what am I going to do? I am going to go to interactions, and instead of navigate to, I want to set a variable. What variable do I want to set? Well, I'm going to create a new variable simply called customer ID. Customer ID will be a local variable. It's going to be a string, and it's going to be updated every time I click on this customer. So let's create that guy. So what is the value of the customer ID? Well, of course, it's going to be the customer ID value in my data set. So now every time I click an item in my list, it will give me that information available to all of the other components on my page. How will I use that now? Well, let's go back to our binding here, and I don't want to hard code this. Why don't we bind it to that customer ID variable that we just set? So now I'll click done. This is ready to go. If I click the run button, and you'll see as I select items on the left-hand side or customers, the customer orders are showing up in the grid on the right. I didn't have to write any code. All the code was written for me in my language of choice. So here, Angular, Blazor, React Web Components, etc. I can make it do whatever I want in terms of what my dev team is skilled or what we really are trying to target in terms of that platform. What do I do next? Well, let's say we've gone through this. We've worked with customers. We know that this application is sort of what we want. we can generate the code for this in our target platform. We can either download a zip file of the code or we can publish it to GitHub. I'm going to publish it to GitHub just because it's example of what you get in that lifecycle. But first, what I want to do is go back to my master view, and when a user clicks on this button, I want to change the interaction to navigate to my new customer orders page. So now when I run this, I'll click here, my navigation works, and if I click here, we will see this at runtime when we generate this code. So let's go ahead and select our target framework. Let's do React, and let's publish this over to GitHub to see what we end up with. So I'll change this to webinar demo 01, and we'll keep it at public, and let's create this repository. So what this is going to do is it's going to take this designed app with all of the data binding and all of the stuff that we added, custom themes, branding, etc., and it's going to publish this as a complete React application over to GitHub. So here you can see it's been published. Let's go ahead and click on it. And here, if I look, I can see that I've got all of my application here inside of GitHub, all of my pages, my master view. We can see here my customer orders. So everything looks great. What can we do? Let's go ahead and go to code. I'm going to copy webinar demo 1 git. Let's pop up Visual Studio Code. We'll do a Command-Shift-P. Let's do a git clone, and let's just clone this repository. And what we'll do is check out the fact that all of our source is still here, so you can see our master view with all of the pages that we added, including our customer orders with all of the necessary code and services to build that out. We can see our Northwind Cloud service going to all of our endpoints. So let's go to terminal, new terminal. Let's do an npm install. And that's wrapped up. So then let's do an npm start, and we will see our application. So this fires up. You can see I have my entry point. And if we go back to App Builder and I go to my login screen, you'll notice this is what it looks like in App Builder for create account and for sign in. And this is what it looks like here. So it's pixel perfect. It is identical. This is my left-hand menu. You can see my calendar control over here. The theme came across perfectly. As I navigate to my individual pages, you'll see that my grids are showing up as you would expect. And this is the new page that we added with our list on the left-hand side. And as I select those customers, you will see that their orders are showing up on the right-hand side. So in a matter of minutes, I went from a sample app to a completely operational functioning app, full with data binding, custom theming, and really any other customization that I wanted to add, including code generation. And that's really the value of App Builder. This is an accelerator. It helps you get from 0 to 100 in minutes, maybe hours, but certainly not days or weeks like it would with manual coding all of this. So JJ, let's go back to you and the slides.
Okay, thanks for that, Jason. So that will pretty much wrap up our time here today. I'm going to go ahead and pop up a quick poll. It's only about 5 to 6 questions if you guys wouldn't mind answering. And any feedback you have is greatly appreciated, and it does help us shape our future releases. And if you want to try App Builder, you can get it directly at our website, appbuilder.dev. You can also contact us for a personalized demo. We can explore, how to help kickstart your next projects. And then finally, if you do have any remaining questions, here's my email and contact information again. And you could also reach out to Jason, jasonb@infragistics.com. Thank you, everybody, for joining today, and enjoy the rest of your day.